Okay, TV 79. Great. Okay, so I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is Wednesday, it's April 3rd. This is a regular meeting of the Pear Beach Building Committee. Good evening, everyone. And so the first item of order is on our agenda here is the approval of the minutes from the 20th.
Anybody need a copy?
Yeah.
So everybody had a chance to take a peek at it? Great. Any amendments or edits to it? Great. Okay, so may I have a motion to approve? Thank you, Mark. Second?
Second.
Great. Good job. Thank you. Okay, so that's great. Minutes are approved. Next item on our agenda is public comment. Since we have no members of the public here with us this evening, it'll be a short item on our agenda.
3 minutes each.
Yeah, there you go. And then moving on to the next item, update on the design phase. So I thought maybe I'll say a few words and then open it up to Randy and Pam as well. So since our last meeting, a number of things have happened. First off, the survey has been completed. The property survey of the Pear Beach property has been completed, and that's been turned over now to Neil Houck and Weston & Sampson, so they have that in their possession. Also, Pam, Randy, and I, following on our last meeting where we made a selection of Neil Houck and the team of Neil Houck and Weston & Sampson, Pam, Randy, and I met with Neil last Friday. Neil had provided us with a draft contract. We had an opportunity to take a look at that in advance of meeting with Neil. Everything seemed in order. We then met with Neil, went through it just to make sure we were understanding everything that he had there. Looked all fine to us. That meeting contract following that meeting was passed along to the town administrator, Kate Bush, and has since been signed. So we now have an executed contract with the team of Weston & Sampson and Neil Houck, which is great. It's a very important milestone. Got a little off track there, but I think we're certainly now on track. I think what we two of us chatted about now is that kind of in terms of next steps, what we're anticipating will happen here is that now that Neil and Weston & Sampson are engaged with us, the next step would be for them to spend some time with both the commission and then ultimately the committee, just to start with, in terms of doing some data gathering, making sure that they understand the requirements, the objectives. So what we've looked at, and this is tentative, is the possibility of inviting Neil to join us at the upcoming Parks and Recs meeting on the 24th. What I'd like to suggest too is that we would invite the committee to join us at that meeting as well, so we will have an opportunity to hear what, that dialogue, and of course the fundamental objective there, goal there would be to essentially have the commission restate its objectives for the benefit of the team, the architectural and Weston & Sampson team, and then establish a dialogue between the commission and Neil and Weston & Sampson to at least get some initial thoughts and clarity around what those objectives are. Following that meeting, then
Mike, you said that meeting's on the 24th.
It's tentative at this stage. I think
Okay.
it's really with
With
Lori, and the invitation hasn't yet been extended. I don't think, right?
Well, the commission was just now putting it on the agenda, but you had to confirm with.
Yeah, to see if he was
See
available.
if he was
Well,
available.
we talked to him about, he was going to.
Yeah, I think we just need to confirm
I
that.
think he said the 24th he would be available.
Right.
17th.
But for 6 o'clock or for 7:30?
Well, see, that's what my question is that, no, we were,
We're planning to bring him into the
Right.
commission meeting, which would be the 7:30.
but will this committee meeting still, we wouldn't need to meet at 6 then?
We can discuss it. I don't, if we're asking the committee to join us for that meeting, I think, it seems to me like the next major item, kind of a business, is really to have that dialogue take place.
Right, so it would seem sensible to have everybody just meet at 7:30. So
Correct.
this meeting would be canceled, and
That was my thinking.
they would just join, they would just coming into the Parks and Recreation.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be, they wouldn't be on the agenda, we would just cancel the meeting at 6.
We could be your guests.
Yeah, exactly,
Yes.
that's the thinking.
Let's hear
We would have the committee
Yes.
at the commission meeting as guests to
Right.
kind of listen in on the dialogue.
Right, and then I can confirm up with everybody.
So it's tentative, you'll confirm with Neil, we'll confirm that
Yes.
makes sense from an agenda perspective.
Do you allow public comment at those meetings?
We do.
Yeah, and I guess I would anticipate, not to get ahead of you, Lori, but I would anticipate it would be the first of a number of meetings where, that team would be invited back to the commission for discussion and for open discussion and dialogue with the community as well. Once again, I think we've, it seems to me like we're back on track. We've got a number of items that are lined up. I think coming out of this next kind of round of discussions, I think we should have some good momentum, good direction for Neil and team, and so that's what I have to offer at the moment in terms of status. Randy?
Yeah, I actually thought we were gonna meet separately with Neil before the commission, but it's okay. If we do combine the two, are we the public, or are we allowed to speak more than just the public comment section?
Pam, you seem to think they would be observed.
Can I just maybe clarify for a second? The kind of thinking to your point, and I know there wasn't, we were thinking of potentially having Neil meet with this committee in advance. We're just kind of looking at the calendar. So I think the thinking at this stage is to go to kind of the source of the objectives. And once again, the kind of the genesis of what we're doing here kind of stems from the Parks and Recreation Commission. So it seemed as though it made sense, rather than kind of getting ahead of ourselves and having Neil meet with us first and then go back to the commission. It seemed like it might make some sense to start the process with Neil having the dialogue with the commission, reaffirming what the commission originally set out. Also, we've learned some things, right, since we started this process with the committee, and kind of work that back into the commission's thinking about what they've set out as objectives as well, and give them an opportunity. And Mark, I think you kind of raised the point when we were last together of going back to the commission and kind of informing the commission of all the things we've learned since we started the process. So that was kind of the rationale for starting with the commission. And then, of course, our charge is to build what the commission is essentially kind of setting out as a set of objectives.
Well,
So
not only to build, but to help define. So if we're going to have a meet and greet with the entire commission and ourselves, then the next step is for Neil to come back to the building committee with the
Correct.
crayon sketches that we can toss around
yeah,
and kind of come down with some, I don't know, some more defined crayon sketches, if you will. We can review and then forward on to the Park and Recs Commission.
yes, yeah. I think there's two other thoughts. One is, I think we can be assured that Neil understands how to manage through this process, and how to kind of solicit and canvass kind of the constituencies and the stakeholders. But yes, to your point, the intent there would be that sets the baseline, and then Neil kind of gets to work and comes back here, and we can make a determination when it makes sense to go back. In my opinion, anyway, one opinion, we can make a determination when it makes sense to go back to the commission and interact and provide updates and feedback to the commission. I was just going to, I'm sorry, again.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, I was just going to say, no, I'll come back to it. I just
All right,
wanted
okay. We've learned, we think we've learned something, from the response to the planning and zoning's discussion with the Connecticut Department of Environmental Affairs. And last time we talked to Neil and Weston and Sampson, they said, well, maybe that will not be exactly right. So whatever we can tell the commission about what we think we know, about what would be permissible and what wouldn't be.
Yeah.
I think we ought to let that happen as soon as we can.
Yeah.
And it'd be nice I don't know, chicken and the egg, what came first? I think we can talk to Neil after we do that, but I think this is a good opportunity to say, this is a good objective, I see all the good reasons for it, but it's beginning to look like the DEP is not gonna give us a permit for that.
Yeah.
Go
ahead, please.
Is it appropriate that Neil isn't, as I understand it, Neil's in listening mode, right?
Yes.
He's not gonna talk about any grand schemes or anything. He's listening to what the charge was in essence to us, and he's just going to our boss.
He's doing data gathering.
Right.
He's going to the client, to your point.
It's going to the source.
We're the client.
Well, okay, let's talk about the kind of the ultimate client,
Right.
The kind of to your point, the boss, the source of what, the objectives really, once again.
Yeah, I just don't want him saying, this is what we're gonna do. I just want him to be listening mode, because if he's gonna say, this is what we have in our mind, I think we need to meet with him beforehand, so we can make sure that we agree what's in his mind.
Well,
You're right, but I think his goal initially is to just listen. And once he listens, then his program is to start working on pencil sketches and just, crayon.
Right, no, I
And come
agree.
back and talk to us. And if he
Okay.
comes back with 6 schemes or, then it's kind of up to us to kind of narrow it down to what we might then present back to the Park and Recs
Well,
Commission.
the ultimate narrowing down is the cost of the 6 or the cost of the 4 or whatever it is.
Well, I don't think we should worry about the cost, and I'll tell you why. Because the reading I get, and Diana, you maybe know better, is that John Z is pretty adamant that we don't want to nickel and dime anything at the beginning. And if it costs a little more to put in the proper floor, to put the wood on, then to cheap it out, then we want to do that because we don't want to rip it up in 4 years.
No, I agree.
I think that's absolutely accurate, that we are looking to design
And we're
towards
not-
objectives, not towards budgets. 'cause
Right,
we've
we're not
had
going to
some bad
value
experiences.
engineer
Yeah.
at this stage. And the value engineering can come later on when we find out it's $5 million and we get an undercurrent of feedback from town people that that's never going to fly. At that point, we start value engineering.
Yeah.
And
Agreed.
we don't go into it planning to, I don't know, cheap out for lack of anything else.
I think that comes from a very, a place of good governance on John's part, and that we've had the experience in town of spending lots of money to build things that 10 years later, we didn't put in enough air conditioners, or we didn't do this, or we didn't do that, and we're having to spend way more than if we had just done it right to begin
The
with.
first time. Exactly. So I think we should keep that in mind at this stage of the game.
I think that's good
I agree.
advice. I thought it would be helpful also maybe just to, we've done this a number of times, but bear with me, I thought it would be helpful just to restate the charge of our committee. And that's different than the objectives. Not that it's different, they're complementary, but let me just read the charge. And the charge is, and this is from the Board of Selectmen, the Pear Tree Point Beach Services, many Darien residents and boaters. The recently completed master park plan recommends upgrades to Pear Tree Point beach facilities such as, but not limited to, improve accessibility to park facilities, i.e. curb ramps, parking stalls, etc., regrade the parking lot to correct drainage issues, rehabilitate or replace outdated concession bathhouse building, improve concession facilities, improve beach resiliency and reduce wind, water erosion by increasing natural shoreline areas, reconstruct the boat ramp, provide ADA access to the dock, and replace the security guard shack. The guard shack is being handled separately, but I restate it because once again, it's multidimensional, and the building, is one aspect of it, of a number of aspects of what we're talking about here. And when Pam and I and Randy met with Neil back last week, I think we made that clear to him. This is not simply about him focusing on, building a building. It's multidimensional. There are a number of very important, and every one of these is, at least I think at this stage, when we can have a discussion around it, but I think every one of these has kind of an equal weight in terms of the importance to, what we're setting out here. So that just goes back, once again, I restated, because I think that's what we want Neil to hear back from the commission. We want a dialogue around these things, so the commission can help, because these are just, a few words on a page. There is the separate set of objectives that kind of expands on these, but they're still just, it's a bullet list. So I think at the outset, just, for clarity's sake, I think it's important for Neil to get a good sense from the commission as to, as a starting point, and then come back to us about, any further clarification. Randy, to your point, that kind of interactive dialogue, then that's kind of settled, that starts on from there.
I was hopeful that ideally Weston and Sampson participate in possibly doing it. I'm gonna find out, because the coastal resiliency piece and the grading and whatever is really their strong suit, not necessarily Neil's. And
They have a number of people on their teams and certainly send some.
they send somebody, Dan's not available.
That guy, John,
Yeah,
that was here that presented,
He would do just fine.
Yeah.
he really seems to have it.
Yeah,
His
good,
act together.
yep, yeah, I did.
But that's such an important piece, and after we all go to this speech tomorrow night, this lecture on rising sea levels, we're gonna be even more focused on it, right? I'll walk out of the battery, library go.
Okay, so anybody have any other questions or thoughts on?
I just had a question on the process for the meeting, because if the thought is that it really is 80% listening on his part, will you be able to do something to choreograph it in that way? Because I would imagine the commission could come to the table with like tons of questions, and then it's no longer a 80% listening environment, right? So
We would just have to tell him that, the answer is, I don't know yet. I mean, he's literally starting out.
right,
He's trying to get the charge from our boss's boss or his boss's boss.
yeah.
So
As
it's a
long
good
as
point.
they're told, I just feel like perhaps
Yeah, I
there
mean-
needs to be a little bit of instruction given to.
Yeah, to that
Both
point,
sides.
To both sides, you said.
we chatted a
Yes.
little bit from the commission perspective, kind of wearing my commission hat and talking with Lori as we talk through and inviting the team. I keep saying Neil, but it's the team of Neil and Weston and Sampson to the commission on that exact point, choreographing it. Okay, so what are we expecting of Neil? What are we expecting of the commission? What do we need to do to line that up to be as productive as we possibly can be? And I think that's exactly right on. Yeah, and that's a TBD, but it's like they agree 100%.
But it's gonna be his opportunity to listen to them.
Yeah,
And we're gonna listen to what they say, but we're not gonna be giving input at that time.
yeah, I think we'll have our opportunity here, and he'll be with us, and I think there'll be multiple. From what I'm understanding, there'll be many opportunities for kind of interactive dialogue with that team.
So the times, or if you're gonna send us the times, were these meetings all at 6 or?
They're all, yeah, if you want to
Because it's the
change.
24th.
Right. 7:30, so I'll confirm that, I'll put an email.
Okay, so we're good on the update on the design phase. Pam, did you have anything else that you'd like to offer on the
No.
update? Great.
No, I think it all.
Great work, Pam.
it all
I mean, you
fine.
kind of you've been kind of
Yeah, it was.
moving a lot of this along as well. And
It was a good conversation. I think what the contract was what we wanted to see,
Absolutely.
and he's offering us more than what our expectations were, and he's sticking to that.
just to clarify that point, what we did confirm with Neil, which was the team of Neil and Weston and Sampson, that was different from what the others had provided for, was his support. I would just characterize it as straight through to ribbon cutting. So not only is he working through to the production of the construction drawings, he'll work with us through the bidding process, and then following the selection of a construction firm, he'll work with us through the entire construction phase, kind of in a kind of a support and observation and mode. So I think there's really some value add in what the team is offering is beyond what we had kind of seen in some of the other offerings as well. So I think that'll be very important to us. Okay, so moving on, Pam, you want to just talk us through the dates here, or?
Yeah, self-explanatory, they're all Wednesday meetings, and they coincide with the Parks and Recreation Commission meeting, which is the third Wednesday of every month, unless, of course, it lands on a unique week like this particular one, which is school vacation. And then, of course, the first Wednesday of every month, which is on here, is strictly a committee meeting. So we'll stick with the bi-weekly, and unless we opt to add a date or delete a date as we go along.
Yep.
July 3rd might not be a
Great date.
Yeah.
That's
vote
true.
against
Well,
that.
we could change
Or I
that.
just won't show up.
Well, the interesting thing too, I mean, this committee is new, but even the commission, we put them down, but then typically we don't really meet in July or August. We did with the Park Master Plan, because I guess it came up to some public hearings things, but we certainly could change that July 3rd right now if you wish, so they're not set. This might be the time to do it, since I think that's a good point.
I'm just telling you, I'm not gonna show up.
I'm just telling you.
Good, let's hold it then, sorry. We can hold it then if you're not gonna show up.
You can hold it.
July 3rd, or, well, the commission meets on the 17th, maybe. So, it all depends on,
Is there a commission meeting for?
on the 17th.
No, we usually meet in July. So
Not
if we skip,
August,
we usually
typically.
skip August,
Yeah.
if we skip. Other years we've ended up taking it off August and putting it back because there was a lot going on.
What we could do is we can leave it and see what type of things are happening with this
Yeah.
project, and then we could just cancel as we get.
I'd rather leave it so it's on the calendar and the room is
Yeah.
available, because if we give it up and want it, we're gonna be in.
Because I don't know if it's necessary to do
13.
2 back-to-back weeks, the 10th and the 17th.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean-
I also think as we go along, if we're gonna have time with Neil and proposals, we might not wanna limit ourselves to the hour and a half before 7:30, then we have to close it off for the Park and Rec stuff.
Yeah.
So I think as we,
We lose 2, right? You 2?
well, it's not so much that, I'm
You
more
also lose the
worried
room.
about- I'm more, yeah, we lose the room and we lose the time, hour and a half, and, we're out of here because, and maybe we're not done, or maybe,
Do we stay here in the summer, or are we moving down to Weed?
Whatever we choose to do.
But you have-
Typically, we've done paddle,
But
meetings.
Do you have the rooms booked already?
I would check, would you prefer to meet at the paddle hut?
I think
no.
I think it is,
No, the commission.
I think the
Oh.
commission, it is at least a couple of months. You're
Well,
set for the paddle.
that's what we chose, but we
Yeah.
certainly
you can
haven't
change
put,
whatever you
we
want.
haven't put that in stone, but we, you want me to check it out?
Let's just check
I
what we
think
did.
there was an acoustic issue, especially with Channel
Yeah.
79, I know
Okay.
that there, and I think last year we kinda got away from.
I think we got away from it.
I think so too.
If your commission meetings are there and these meetings are
here,
here,
yeah, that
you'll
makes
have
it
to build a
difficult.
That makes it
travel time.
difficult, yeah, 'cause
Yeah.
that's right, and
that's
that
gonna
makes it
shorten the
difficult.
window, that's gonna shorten our hour and a half window even more.
Well, we certainly
No,
can
but
meet
it
there
would
too.
mean, no, it would mean if the
Yeah, but
commission
you-
was moved,
Then this
you're
committee
not
should
gonna be
meet too.
interrelating with the commission every month,
I hope not.
right?
No, it's-
But it would just
I hope
mean,
not.
Yeah, but I don't want,
if
I don't
the
want
commission
our-
meetings get moved, those nights, it would free up this room, assuming that's what we have currently
Right.
reserved, which I have a feeling is. Because you would be able to keep going, the only thing would be create a challenge for Mike
Yeah.
well, it creates a
And
challenge
for
for
me.
Mike and Pam
And for
and
Pam.
you.
and for me, oh yeah. Alright, scratch that.
Can I come back to the week of the first week in July? Is there a possibility of just moving the meeting of the 3rd to the 2nd? Does that work for anybody?
I think we'd have to confirm it with the rest of the members.
I am right now. I mean, at least the group that's here at the moment.
Right.
I mean, I can't tell you where I'm gonna be.
Yeah.
3 months from now, 4 months from now.
I can say I have a better chance of being here the 2nd than the 3rd.
That would also be my
Seems
We're hanging
response.
out with Lori.
We're gonna be
Yeah.
hanging out.
Well, I guess I'm just suggesting, rather than leave it on the 3rd, knowing no one's gonna show up for the 3rd, maybe we should just put it on the 2nd and just see as we get closer if that works.
See if the room works.
Because we've gotta get the room anyway, so. we might as well-
It's fine with, that's fine with me, I don't know, who else cares?
So I'd have to look at the Board of Finance schedule because Tuesday's the Board of Finance meeting,
Oh,
so I don't know.
first Tuesdays.
We switch, like right now we meet every twice a week as we're in the middle of budget season, so
Oh, yeah.
I'm not actually
Okay.
sure which Tuesday we're gonna land on for the rest. I probably have it somewhere, but
Okay,
I
so,
tried
We
to-
can come back to that.
Yeah.
We can come back to that.
I mean, we have time to
Let's,
work that
let's
out.
book it and then come back and revisit.
Agreed.
That's why I
Okay.
can't come tomorrow night.
so we don't have to vote on these, do we? Right?
No?
Well, they get posted though.
Yeah.
I don't think so, we'll just post it and we're not.
So what, I'm sorry, we left
We're
the
leaving it.
third,
Just leaving
okay.
it.
And Randy's
Left the
not
third, you're gonna check the
otherwise
second.
engaged.
Okay, so if that's, we're done with that, moving on, anyone have any new business they'd like to chat about?
Oh, yeah.
Later.
After?
Later.
Okay, got it. No, I have nothing.
Okay, great, so if there's no new business, then I'd like to invite a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So move.
Second?
Wait a minute, I did miss that.
Diana moved, Mark second. All in favor?